Deputy Speaker, I must say that I feel extremely fortunate to have been able to get a glimpse of the member for Gippsland's MPI that he submitted for consideration today. I was fearing that the next time I was unleashed for MPI duty, I'd be reprinting one of the many speeches I've made to one of their many motions on the cost of living. Adding variety to one's diet is important after all. It gave me quite a shock to see those opposite diversifying their complaint portfolio at MPI time. But then you take one look at the motion. It's about putting a stop to the unfettered green light those opposite gave to many infrastructure projects that came about on spreadsheets with metadata opaque enough to keep many veteran auditors general up at night. This should be obvious for most, but I feel it needs to be said for some here. Votes are not the sole criteria for a proper business case for infrastructure spending. The relevance of what's been struck in a coalition agreement is not relevant either. It was their utopia for 9 years. I love that TV show, but I will not miss their government. On the other hand, our government is reviewing white elephant projects. If one falls, it won't be due to the malice, but those opposites certainly take it very personally. It's almost as if they pre-purchased all those ribbons, which frankly would equate to the only level of funding put towards some of the projects listed in this review. The government is probing projects for their lack of probity, and the Nationals certainly are feeling that sting. And I also note, cutely I might add, the member for Gippsland adds a kicker into the mix, one on migration. How dare the government review these questionable projects in the face of net overseas migration rising? Far be it from me to see a National Party signature on a page that holds a position fearful of migration. Maybe we are back to Groundhog Day after all, Deputy Speaker. After all, if the member for Gippsland wants to lead his foot soldiers into this place to talk about infrastructure funding, I will reluctantly fight that fight, despite my apprehension that we are going to return to cost of living MPI soon, after this display of creativity by those opposite. Deputy Speaker, the member for Gippsland leads this MPI as the Shadow Minister for Regional Development, Local Government and Territories. But the senior partner in their portfolio team is, of course, in the other place. It is none other than Senator Mackenzie, a senator whose personality mirrors her spreadsheets. Colourful. The senator and the member for Gippsland are in lockstep when it comes to thinking of Australia's infrastructure pipeline as one giant pork barrel. This government has put a handbrake on many projects that stack up, as well as their famous commuter car parks. 3 expert reviewers are looking into numerous projects that aren't just undelivered, they're also underfunded. 160, in fact, have less than $5 million committed towards them. Under the former government, that would have seldom covered the cost of a pull-up banner and a lectern at the announcement of the project itself. If taxpayer dollars are going toward a project that is effectively no more than a media release or two, it better stack up. What would those opposite have to fear from the review if they possess the knowledge that the projects that stack up aren't destined for the chopping block? I think we all know the answer to that. It's as plain as day as the animus behind the motion entering the debate about migration. Those opposite only turned the migrant tap off alongside many other Australians who were stranded and unable to return for many long months during the pandemic. Nature is healing, Deputy Speaker. We have skilled migrants coming to and returning to Australia. Those opposite have heard us talk about our dire skills shortages. They should know. They voted against the Jobs and Skills Amendment Bill as recently as last sitting week. International students are returning, not as many as projected. They know that migration will be 315,000 migrants lower than the pre-pandemic projections for June 2023. It's all sad in the face of those opposite, consistently demonstrating themselves to be so flexible with their positions they have at times voted against policies endorsed while they were in government. Yet with infrastructure spending and with migration, they are very inflexible with their flexibility, constrained by something we can't quite see in its entirety. I think back to being in the Federation Chamber yesterday evening to listen to the member for Riverina say, let's build a better Australia. Not necessarily a bigger Australia, but a better Australia. And when it relates to infrastructure spending, I could not agree more with the member's statement to a greater extent, but not so much when it refers to migration as it did last night. Thank you, Speaker.